Johnny A. like Mr. GQ. So you did GQ in which country?
UK.
UK. How'd that all come about?
I got a lot of friends in UK, some that were in prisons with me and some that know me. One's in bare knuckle boxing. He's a guy that runs that show down there, Terry. So I got pretty familiar with a lot of those guys. I go back and forth and I travel a lot. And they asked me to talk about the mob in GQ. So they came to see me, they interviewed me, and they put me in 4 editions of GQ last month.
Oh, you took to it so naturally, though. That wasn't your first photo shoot, though, was it?
No, I've done a lot of magazines around the world at this point. I've been in Vanity Fair, I've been in Rolling Stones magazine, Society in France, Germany. I did a magazine out of there, Switzerland, Albania Living magazine. They featured me there in 8 or 10 pages twice in the last couple of years. So I'm kind of used to doing photo shoots now and magazines.
Did you ever get any flack for that when you were on the street for like being a smooth, suave guy?
Yeah, when I was a kid, they used to joke around, say, you know, I was like a pretty boy, you know, I ain't no gangster, you know, you look like a, and Gotti used to call me a college boy, and it was, you know, I used to laugh. And I took it all in stride and fun. It didn't bother me anyway, so it was kind of a compliment saying you're good looking, so, you know.
Back in those days, there was a lot of tough guys on the street and a lot of feared guys. Who was the most feared on the streets?
Back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, it was definitely, you know, Roy DeMeo and Anthony Santa and Patsy and his brother. So those guys were feared guys, and those guys were serious guys. Those guys were guys that if somebody said they weren't a killer, they didn't know them. They didn't know that crew. And if you knew that crew, everybody knew that crew was killers. Guys like him, Gas Pipe, Lucchese, acting boss, underboss. He was a serious guy, killer. And there was a handful of guys, Westies, the Irish gang, that the Italian mob used to do a lot of work for them. Jimmy Coonan and those guys, they were serious guys too, killers. And you hear guys talking, well, they were drug addicts, drug dealers, drug this, drug that. You know, the people that say that stuff is because these guys aren't around anymore. You know, it's easy to talk these days when guys aren't in front of you and guys aren't killing anymore, or they're dead. So, you know, you see a lot of these big mouths now on social media or, you know, in the neighborhood talking to another guy, but they never did a piece of work themselves. They got their own kids bullshitted, so. If they ain't got they got the audacity to lie to their own children and build themselves up when they were nobody on the street. So it gives them a chance to act like they were something out there when they weren't about nothing.
So let's take it back. DeMeo, why was he so feared? Was it just because he was a killer? Was he good with his hands? Did he have a crew?
Oh, he had a crew. I mean, the Gemini guys, the Gemini crew out of Brooklyn, and these guys were just, every one of them was serious. If you had a problem, you knew that they were looking for you, you better hide. And I'm not talking about hiding in the neighborhood. You better go out of state somewhere and never come back, because they were going to kill you, they were going to set you up, they were going to tear you up, and they were going to dismantle your body, and that's what they did. Their job was, they were vicious killers. They weren't just killers, they were vicious killers.
With Gas Pipes, why was he so feared?
Yes, but there's another guy, you know, if he liked you, he was loyal as hell to you. But if he thought that you were betraying him, if he thought you were trying to set him up, there was no game with him. He's a guy that, you know, he went straight after you himself. He didn't even need his guys. He would go kill. So he had some reputation. He had a bad temper. And he just took care of business. And these guys are different. It's a big difference in the eras of the guys now compared to the guys back then. I mean, the guys back then just were serious killers. Everybody was, if you were on the street and you wanted to pretend to be a tough guy, you weren't going to last long.
Did Gas Pipe have a huge crew?
Yeah, Gas Pipe, you know, he was running, you know, he was officially the boss of Lucchese family. And he just was dangerous, and he had a ton of guys. So Gas Pipe was nobody to screw with. And you know, his partner and underboss boss, these guys, Vico Musso was his partner, and they flip-flop between boss and underboss. Who, word is that one was really the boss, the other guy was just acting as in namesake, and he was staying in the background, meaning gas pipe. And who knows, but it doesn't matter. Both of them were boss and underbosses, and they were dangerous killers. And together as a team, they didn't play around. These are the guys that wanted to kill Gotti at the time, senior, so they were no joke.
When, at this time, was Scarpa on the street, Greg Scarpa?
Yeah, Greg Scarpa was back the same era. Greg Scarpa, same thing. They say he was working with the feds at the same time as he was killing. I don't know the logistics of his case. From what I saw, paperwork, he was cooperating. But I don't think too many people would say that to his face either. He was a dangerous guy, and even when he was shot up, he didn't even go to hospitals. He went after the guys that shot him and went right back at him. So he was another guy that was a prolific killer. And I'm not talking, like when somebody says, he's a killer, they kill one or two guys. These guys are killing on a regular basis, daily, weekly, yearly. They're building up numbers like it's a football game or something. They're just very serious guys not to get in their way. And if you're weak or if you think you're going to challenge them, you're going to end up like most guys dead.
Damn, was it that much killing going on, like daily, weekly?
Yeah. I mean, the kids in this era can't understand back in the 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s, the way the killing was going, especially because there was no cameras and law enforcement technology has changed over the years. But, back then we didn't know who were the killers. We knew there was guys had reputations, but there was other guys that played the game and they walked the walk and talked the talk pretty good, so you wouldn't know if they were a killer or not. There were so many bodies dropped. So guys were always very tentative who they screwed with, because they weren't sure if that guy was really dropping bodies. These days, when guys are walking around like gangsters, talking like gangsters, they really ain't gangsters, because ain't nobody getting killed anymore. So, when they play that game, every time I hear a big mouth talking, to myself, I look at them and I just shake my head, because the real tough guys, you're not going to hear anything about them. You're not going to hear them talking about other people. You ain't going to hear them talking about people's kids. You're not going to hear them talking, bragging about themselves. But these guys these days, a lot of big mouths that ain't about nothing, and they get to be big mouths now because there's a different era, and most of the killers are gone. They're either dead in prison or retired at an old age.
When you say dropping bodies daily and weekly, it makes me think of a high body count. It brings to mind the Iceman. Did you ever hear anything about him when you were out there? Or
listen, the guy killed a couple of people, but his story is nonsense. He's not involved with mob guys, and maybe he knew somebody, one or two people, I don't know. But he wasn't involved with the Mafia like he claims.
No connection whatsoever?
Nah, no connection.
Now, a lot of the feared guys we name, you take Scarpa, you take a guy like Whitey Bulger and Castle, they all had like cops in the background that were working for them in one way, shape, or form. Do you think that's a part of the fear?
Yeah, well, listen, I mentioned before Patty Testa. This guy is, was a gentleman, good-looking guy, killer, tough guy, but a nice guy until you cross that path. These other guys you just mentioned, I think if you look back in history from the old movies of The Godfather, everybody's got police involved with them, corrupt cops, and they're dirty, and they're giving tips to them to go after the other crew. I mean, the street is dirty. So when people are talking, well, this guy's working with a cop, and this guy's working with a cop, I think that's just part of everyday business. Everybody's got cops in their pocket. Unfortunately for law enforcement, there's a lot of dirty cops out there over the years. The majority of them are regular hard-working cops, and then you got the dirty ones. There's nothing different. The street's the street, and where the street is, there's shit. And where there's money, shit follows. So that's just the reality of the street world. The kids that are buying into the bullshit is, when I'm talking about messages through some of my shows and movies and books, is they don't understand the street. They're too low level of guys, not educated to the extent that we are in the street, and the treachery. The treachery is unbelievable. You hear about spies. This guy's a spy or a double spy. In the mob world, you got triple and quadruple spies. I mean, it's just so much treachery. Guys are setting up their best friend. The next day, they're taking over their position, their money, their family. So it's just so hard to explain to a younger or guys that are low-level guys in the street that just don't understand the capacity and the reach of the Mafia and street guys that are playing at this level. You know, guys will run circles around them. You know, it's like when you get an uneducated kid trying to sit in a room with a room full of scientists and professors. How's he going to do that? It's the same thing with some of these, especially some of these big mouths that are always commenting on these sites. You know, I look at them and I say to myself, I shake my head, I said, if they were ever in a room with some of us, you know, but these guys know they're safe now, so they can talk like jerk-offs and get away with it.
When we talk about the feared guys, were they only feared because they were killers, or did any of them have good knuckle games? Were there like any guys that are like, wow, this guy could fight?
Well, you had guys like who's a captain with the Genovese family, good-looking guy, money maker, tough with his hands, and a well-liked guy. You know, so you get guys like him. There's guys out there like him. There's guys like Sammy Gravano can use his hands. So you know, you got guys that are tough scrappers that are around there that are fighters. And sure, I mean, listen, every street, every crew, you have, you know, a couple hundred guys that are made guys, and maybe you got 3, 4, or 5 that are killers. The rest are just sheep following the flock. And they can live off the reputation of those 3 or 4 or 5 killers in that crew. And they'll live off the reputation of who's good with their hands, with the knuckle game, like you said. And there's not too many of them either. So, you know, the belief of an organization of having a bunch of kills and tough guys is not true. And that's why you see, especially now, a lot of these killings are outsourced to a lot of the black gangs. So, you know, I look at it when they say, I'm Albanian, he ain't no gangster. So what are you trying to tell me? That black kid ain't no gangster? That guy that has the balls to do the shooting, you ain't got the balls to do because his skin color is different, his nationality is different? I mean, I keep trying to wise up the kids on the street. Don't be suckers like I was. And don't let nobody challenge your ego and tell you you ain't nothing or you were low level. Because these same talkers, that's what they are. They're talkers. If they were out there killing, I would have seen them all these years out there killing. Just we all know who's the killers out there. I have a lot of enemies out there that I respect because they were legitimate tough guy killers. And then you get guys that just recently, a couple of years back, Banana Captain went to jail with all his guys, and they're a joke. I knew they weren't going to go in. Not forget about killing. They don't even got a shooting on their case. These guys ain't about nothing. I said, so, you know, when they want to run around and impress other kids, because it's this era. If they would have opened their mouth 20 years ago in our era, they would all have been basketed. You know, you'd find them in a dumpster somewhere. Well, you know, it's just the era has changed and the times have changed.
When you say outsource killings to black gangs, what's going on with that?
Well, because they don't have the guys that either have the ability to kill, or they don't have the balls to kill, or they don't want to take the chance to kill. So they're taking gang members that are street kids that are ambitious, have no money, or some of them may have money, and maybe they're offering them a decent amount of money to do a piece of work for them and kill for them. And these guys are stepping up. But if I was them, I'd step back and say, what are they asking me to do this for? What are you calling me for? Why don't you do it? And if they're that weak that they need to use you, then you should say to yourself, well, why should I kill this guy? Why don't I just take the money off this guy that's asking me to do the killing?
So with these guys that go out, these black gangsters, they go out, they do a piece of work for these guys. Can they get a button for it? Can they get straightened out? Or
no, because now they're a nigga. You see, you got to understand. This is the mentality I'm trying to tell these kids. Man, you're you. Be you. Don't be you for somebody else. Don't let them sell you out, sell you short like they did, because that's what they did to me. I says, you know, because in one aspect you're not good enough to have a button because you're black, but in another aspect you're good enough to go kill somebody for me. But then you're not good to stay with me anymore, so they chase you away. So why, you know? So I'm trying to tell these kids to forget the street. That's why I'm always talking about that.
so you're saying they'll do the work, and then after they get what they want from the guy's a nigga, they're like, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. He's not accepted. So when they go to dinner together, how come they're inviting their family with them? How come their family ain't living with them? You know, buying a nice house with them, or you know, breaking bread with them, whatever they're doing. You know, listen, when people are true to the street, and you know it, I know it, because we're from the street. We don't look at nobody's color. You know, my friends, they're every color. They're black, they're Spanish, they're Mexican, they're Irish. I don't care what they are. As long as they're good guys, they stay with me. So, you know, that's not the typical belief in that world that I used to live in. And, you know, the double standard, and that's why the book was called Gotti's Rules, because there's a double standard. What's good for them is good for them, but it's not good for me or not good for a black kid. I says, because, you know, we don't fit into their organization. Although, anything to run their organization or control that organization, they need guys like us. I said, without us, they ain't got no tough guys. I mean, listen, there's tough guys. I'm not saying no tough guys, but overall, they need street guys. And unfortunately, you know, my culture, being Albanian, coming from a country that was communist and no money, and we come in a black community, most people are coming from poverty, just like me. So they look at us different than we look at each other. So when we look at each other, we see a man. When we look at each other, we see a struggling individual trying to get up in the world. And like I did, I went to the street to try to get up in the world. And there's a lot of kids, black and Spanish and white kids, Irish kids that come from the streets, or Italian, that are just tough kids trying to get where they're getting. And we're trying to do it the wrong way, taking a shortcut. I says, and we can use them as dummies, they'll do our work, and we'll keep making money. And really, we don't fit in, because if we fit in, we'd all have a button too, right? But we can't get that button. In their laws, we don't deserve that button. So why would we work for them? Why would we do anything? So I got to question why I was doing what I was doing for them for all these years. You know, I can run that organization. I can make money for that organization. I can control that organization by my violence and my guys' violence. But when it came down for the payday, then you're not as good as them. And when it came down for, you know, all the cases, I never got caught with anything. Everybody started pointing at me and saying, he did it. And I look back and I say to myself, well, I never got caught at a scene. I never got caught with drugs. How the fuck am I in jail?
You were out at Queens at the time. There are a lot of hip-hop stars from Queens. Did you have any involvement with the hip-hop community or rappers or people from that genre?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of rappers. None of them really made it big. I mean, LL Cool J is from Springfield, so guys like him, you'd hear his name all the time. The Beastie Boys, you'd hear them. Different rappers over the years. I had a hot nightclub in Tampa, so you had a lot of guys coming into my club, boxes and entertainment guys, and so yeah, you're running into all kinds of guys over the years in the street. But that's just part of the street. I mean, everybody, guys that really are rapping, coming out of the street, just use just another way than just some of us that are selling drugs or robbing or killing, and they're just trying to get up and better life. So, you know, the rap industry, I think, is one of the industries. It's, you know, a lot of times people don't like lyrics of songs, but it's a legitimate industry and an art that's picking you up and getting you out of the street. So I praise that. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I know a lot of people challenge some of the hardcore rapping. But if a kid's out there hardcore rapping and he ain't in a bank robbing it or selling and slinging drugs on the street, why not? Why shouldn't he rap? Yeah.
The rap industry has a lot of street guys involved in it. Definitely a lot of street guys involved in it. And they made a lot of money. Would you say the money they made with hip-hop, did that surpass what the Mafia was making on the streets or made on the streets?
No, I don't think it could surpass that. There's billions of dollars been made with the Mafia. You know, worldwide. And you got to remember, you're talking about every major industry in this country is run and collected by the mob, from garbage carting to seaports to construction to Wall Street to banking to credit card fraud. You know, every industry is kind of covered by the Mafia. So that point, I think the Mafia, listen, you got a lot of guys in the mob, very intelligent guys. And I think that they moved away from the killing aspect of the mob and got more intelligent. And for the black community, I think they got very intelligent with running and controlling the arts of music and rapping, because really they have a real stronghold in those industries. So whether they see it or not, and I'm not sure if they recognize how strong they became in those industries. It's like if somebody wanted to go to Seaport and have a ship pulled in and maneuver, you'd go to the Italian Mafia. If you want to go to the music industry, you better go see somebody who's black. And that's a good thing. I mean, since they developed something in a legitimate way, whether some of it came from street guys or not, they're turning that street into something legitimate. And as long as they're getting away from the street, I think it's fine. I mean, what are you going to do? At least they're going in a positive direction. So, you know, you got to praise guys that are going in a positive direction. They might have took a little shortcut to get there, but in the end, they're going straight. So it's a good thing.
Like a guy, take a guy like Suge Knight. Would he be able to hang around those circles you were in at that time? Would he be able to hold his own?
Nah, because when I seen that guy tap his jaw, all that rough talk, somebody hit him with a short right and he went to sleep, so I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know. You know, the problem with Suge Knight, in my opinion, too, is he just talked too much. So, you know, he had the industry, he was on top, and I think he talked himself out of the industry, and he talked himself out of a lot of street guys trusting in him. So I think, I don't think he could have made it in the street. You had to get somebody else more intelligent. I mean, listen, Tupac's dead, Biggie's dead. Unfortunately, whatever happened between them, but I think both those guys are pretty intelligent. Tupac was an intelligent individual. I said, somebody like him, if he ever used, or got a chance because he died so young, to use his intelligence, I think he could have been really, as he got older, a good community leader, because he really had a foresight of the world, I think, my opinion. I like him, and I always liked him, and I think he was just a little too wild and didn't want to slow down, because when guys make it, and he made it, I mean, there was other ways to try to help his community without jumping out there like he did. Financially, he could have built things for kids and schools, and he could have really been, and he was a poet, he was an actor, he was a great rapper, and he was a good speaker. So he was just naturally talented.
Queens had some other notable figures in hip hop that were in the backgrounds, like street guys. You had Supreme, you had Fat Cat. Did you ever cross paths with those guys?
I know that crew. I didn't know Fat Cat particularly. I knew Scott Cobb. He changed his name later on to Malik, but I knew him. I knew a couple other underlink guys. I got messages through other guys about Supreme and Fat Cat, and some of my guys from the street were with them in different prisons. And unfortunately, these guys, as kids, again, when you're a kid, you make some bad decisions, and took a cop's life. And, you know, we got to sit back as adults now and say, man, just ain't the right way to go. Just not the right, you don't like something, that's not the way about doing it. So, unfortunately, they lost their lives almost the same way. I don't think any of those guys are ever going to get out.
You were around at that time. What did you think when you heard that this drug crew out of Queens killed a cop in a car? What did you guys on the street say?
You know, I did some dumb things as a shooter. I've heard a couple of cops that were off duty and drunk. One of my cousins, distant cousins, was shot by a cop in the face, jumping him. So, I got to look back at it, and your mentality back then, I looked at it as just complete stupidity, because you're on the street to make money. But once you start thinking with your ego and not your brain, and you do dumb shit like that, I think if somebody ever sat with those guys now, and I could be wrong, after all these years being in jail, they probably regret that moment every day. And I'm not saying they feel bad. I'm not sure if they feel bad for Burns, that's his name, that died. I believe it was Ed Burns. It was the wrong cop they shot. There was somebody else that was screwing with them, and he didn't come into work, and this guy was a rookie at the time, and he sat in the car. They killed the wrong guy besides. And I think it's just a major thing that, for anybody in the street. When you kill law enforcement, you kill journalists, you kill TV personalities, you might as well kill yourself after you're finished, because nobody's going to put up with that. Street guys don't like it either. Mob don't like it. Nobody likes it's bad for business. And as a human being, there's got to be a better reason if you're going to take somebody's life. And I'm nobody to preach to them, because I took lives that today I look back and I took them too easily. And sometimes when you're hot and you're mad, you're saying, well, I wish I killed this guy or that guy. That's going to be, you're never going to really change completely your thinking pattern, but you can change your abilities of not acting or reacting to certain situations. Because there's guys out there that challenge me every day that I say to myself, well, I like to take their life. And I don't do it. I think about it, and I think about they're lucky I changed my life. And I think about they're weak, because only weak guys talk like that. Guys that really are killers ain't gonna let me know nothing. If they don't like me, they might come try to kill me. But those are the real guys. The guys you don't hear them bragging in the neighborhood and talking about this or that, or you know how many guys I heard talking about me already. Yes, but I look at them as just, you know, in my country in Albania, it says keep walking, let the dog keep barking, because that's all he is a dog barking. Just keep walking and leave him behind you. And there's a way they say it in Albanian. But most of these guys that are talking nonsense, they never shot a gun. I says, or if they shot a gun, they shot it once. And if they're all about that killing, then why aren't you out there killing? So, you know, when you're just talking that shit, that's all you're talking. Or if they get 5 or 6 guys and they want to jump a guy, I mean, we ain't in high school. So, you know, what is that 5 or 6 guys that they make them think, or they trying to convince themselves they got some balls? I don't know. It's a weak-minded guy. I think there's so many, the world's changed from back when I was growing up in the 70s. You know, and actually I grew up as a kid in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It was a different world. It's a different world that has opportunities now for kids and young kids to do different things and make money a legit way. And I keep passing that message because they don't know what the suffering is that guys like me and some other guys that are dead, and a lot of my friends are dead, and guys are in prisons for life, they have a different way of thinking than years ago.
When the Edward Burns killing happened, there was a lot of heat in Queens. Like, they were shutting everything down. Did you feel any backlash from that?
Sure, everybody did. You know,
so it even filtered over to...
Yeah, because I'm on Jamaica Avenue. I was from East New York, Brooklyn, and I'd run my business all up and down Jamaica Avenue. Some Ozone Park, a little bit of Howard Beach, Ridgewood, but Middle Village, Glendale. But I used to run that whole bar strip down into Jamaica. And then in Jamaica is where Supreme and Fat Cat and them were controlling things. So, you know, we'd hear about them. You know, they were moving big. We had some mutual friends that knew each other. So, you know, we had, obviously, I had respect for those guys. I knew they were tough. Some of them I knew were followers, you know, as usual. And the backlash was, like I said, everything, bars started getting knocked. The machines that we had in the bars were getting knocked. This is because when a cop goes down like that in a homicide, I mean, listen, like I said, after you did it, you might have just went home and killed yourself. It's because you ain't walking from that. People are delusional if they think they are. And if it happens in the future, it's whoever did it, I give them the same advice. I says, you're not walking from that, no how, no way. And if you're a mob guy, like it happened with an ex-DEA agent got killed, and same thing, you're not walking. You're going to get killed for that from the street. So, you know, it's just the situation depends on who's doing the killing and why, and there is no reason why you're taking a law enforcement's life. You're not going to convince anybody about that. You're not going to convince the street guys. You're not going to convince law enforcement. And again, business-wise, anybody that's moving on the street ain't going to condone it.
You said with the DEA agent, are we talking about the Gus Faraci story here?
Correct.
Can you tell people about that?
Yeah, Gus Faraci was a knock-around, hang-around guy from Staten Island, weightlifter, that was doing business with a DEA agent, and he didn't know he was a DEA agent. And when he found out, I think he killed him before he found out. Well, that was his story, that he didn't know, and he killed him. Maybe he did know. And the mob put a hit out on him and said, you know, he's got to go because of the heat that he brought down. And, you know, there was police all over, bashing in doors again, breaking up bookmaking rooms, horse rooms, anything, drug business, everything. People were getting rounded up left and right. Pressure was on until Gus got given up or killed. So the mob killed him. And there was another kid in the car at the time, Joey Scafani, who was at that time friendly with me. And everybody was warned, don't go near this guy. If you see him, he's going to get killed on the spot by anybody that sees him. And they shot up the car, shot Joey also, and killed Gus. So this stuff is, in the street, what people don't understand is it's about money. It's not really supposed to be about killing. It's about money. I says, and when you lose the ability to make money because of somebody's stupidity, an act of stupidity, they're going to get killed for it because they're costing people not millions but billions of dollars. And that's where, you know, the mob is strong. I mean, and every crew, there's 5 families here, there's one in Philadelphia, you got a North Jersey faction of the mob. So you have existing crews still out there, and you have a handful of tough guys in each one of those crews. You know, people misconceive what I say sometimes, a misconception of the mob's doesn't have killers. Yeah, they have killers, sure they do. But you have guys that are a little more intelligent now, and they know it's very hard to get away with killing somebody these days. Eventually, your own guys, if you look at the Mafia now, it's history. All the bosses are talking. Forget about the underlings, forget about the associates. The bosses, the guy that's giving you the order is killing you by, you know, ratting on you or working with the FBI at the same time. So how can there be structure, how can there be fear in the mob world when everybody's talking?
With the Gus Faraci story, you said someone told you to stay away from him and his friend because they're going to get hit.
Not his friend, to stay away from Gus, but his friend ended up still staying with him, stupidly.
So when someone has a hit on them like that, does the community know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's well known, stay away from
For a situation like that, the community knows. Otherwise, on something else, if it was somebody else trying to kill somebody, there's only going to be a couple of guys, a handful of guys will know about that murder. But something like that, Gus Faraci was an open hit from everybody knew. To stay away from, everybody knew he's supposed to be killed. So the crews were told.
So anyone could do it, or it was just open?
It was open for anybody to do it. There would be no headache from anybody. It would be somebody wanted to kill him, he was getting killed.
So it was like on site. That's what we say in Chicago.
Yeah, on site.
Fuck them up on site.
On site. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By anybody that was in that life.
Yeah, anybody that was in that life.
Damn. So he really fucked up.
Yeah, man, you're killing a government employee. That you know, these. Listen, it's easy for a guy to sit back. That's why I said some of these situations. You have so many keyboard warriors now that stay at home and they're on the telephone and they read a book or they read a story and they think they became a mob expert. And, you know, I don't know anything about a car engine, so I don't talk about car engines. But you got guys that have a lot to talk about the mob. I mean, you could be a mob, and you know, you could like it. You can, you know, it's something that interests people, and I know it interests people. But when they talk as if they know something about the street, or if you talk about a half-ass wannabe guy, or you talk about a guy that just got straightened out with the mob that never did no work, or you talk about a guy that's bragging constantly to his kids and to the neighborhood about, you know, he's trying to be a tough guy. If you were that tough of a guy, you would have been doing the same shit that we were doing in the 70s, 80s, 90s. You would have been killing, you would have been shooting, you would have been shot up, you would have been stabbed up like the rest of us. It's just, but when you got these big mouths challenging you, that's just what they are. They're those guys that, you know, you want to give them 1 minute of fame and you might just curse them out a little bit, or you write back something real quick, you know, just, you know, telling them you're a jerk off, you don't even know what a gun looks like, and just end it, because they want that, they're trying to get that attention. Because in this era, I never seen, like, if I don't know you, I'm not writing you. If I don't know what you're doing, I'm not putting thumbs down on your YouTube. What do I care? I just, when these guys got doing that, you know they ain't about nothing. There's some tough crews, don't get me wrong. There was some tough crews in my neighborhood that were my enemies, but they were tough. So when I talk about them, I could say, hey, these guys, young guns, they were a crew in my neighborhood. These guys, whether you like them or not, whether, you know, they did some bad crimes or not, that's besides the point. I'm not talking about their personality. I happen to know most of them since they're kids. I liked them as kids. And these guys were serious guys. They did some serious robberies, some serious killings. They're serious. But when you take another crew, like Ronnie G and his guys, they're about nothing, just mouths. These guys ain't killers. So, you know, when they talk, there's a difference in mentality of who's doing the shooting and who's really just talkers. Because a couple of guys will just move a couple of bags of powder, and they're small-time drug dealers or even big-time drug dealers, but they ain't about killing. You're a drug dealer, you ain't a killer. You better, you know, check yourself. But a lot of these guys don't check themselves. They just like talking.